Welcome to the Neural Implant Podcast, where we talk with the people behind the current events and breakthroughs in brain implants in an understandable way, helping bring together various fields involved in neuroprosthetics. Here is your host, Ladan Jiracek.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Neural Implant Podcast. Today's guest is Ellyn Ito from Innerstill Health, and they have a product called MindVibe. And this is a wellness product. It's a wearable neurotechnology that is improving focus and wellness. And wait, did I say wearable? It's wearable. And yeah, so anyways, Ellyn, pleasure to have you on the show. You guys are building out this technology. Do you want to introduce yourself better than I just did?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. I appreciate being on the show. I could talk about our tech all day long. So I'm Ellyn Ito. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Innerstill, and we are launching platform neuroenergetic devices, so bioelectric technology that is non-invasive and do no harm to help treat the root cause of dysregulation and to help normalize brain function. And we've just recently launched MindVibe, which is a very unique vagus nerve and acupressure point stimulator. So it's multi-mode, and it's designed to help people feel better through basically normalizing neurohormonal regulation.
Wow, cool. So what kind of feeling better do you guys have in mind? Is it curing depression? Is it fixing stomach aches or toothaches or something like this? Or just a general, is it going to help me on a test, on some kind of exam?
Actually, so as a general wellness device, it does not cure, prevent, treat any disease or medical condition. We have a number of IRB governed studies that show enhanced calm, so it engages the rest and digest and recover function of the body. So it helps people feel more calm. It reduces angst or feelings of anxiousness, these chronic feelings of stress. It helps to ease aches and pains that are associated with stress. And one of the biggest pieces of feedback we get, and what our data show, is enhanced sleep. So enhanced sleep quality, better deep sleep, which is, of course, essential to your body's overall immune function and regulation. And so when we talk about people feeling better, it typically makes people feel more calm. It helps them feel more present. It helps them feel more focused. And to your point around, will it help me do better on a test? Some of our practitioners who work with students report that students do better on their testing and on their homework because they're able to focus better. And so we believe, whether it's due to settling the mind and keeping those kind of cycling thoughts out of the head, that people are able to focus better. We know that there are scientific mechanisms of action that happen with vagus nerve stimulation that help with that focus.
Yeah, you're mentioning the side effects, what the goals are, and it sounded a little bit like having a glass of whiskey after a long, hard day, or smoking a joint or something like this. But then you mentioned focus, and I'm like, oh, wait, never mind. So is it like an altered state of consciousness, or you just are absorbing more? I've heard about vagus nerve stimulation. You are able to learn faster too, like even words and all this kind of stuff. Is that how it is?
Yeah, it is a do no harm device. So if you did a shot of whiskey, that in the same way kind of dysregulates your neuropeptides. It has a play on your dopaminergic system. What MindVibe does is it actually introduces ultra low electrical current. It's so mild that people don't feel it. And it does it in a way that prevents what's called saturation. So there's no risk of overuse. And the response that people feel depends on the individual and how they are in their state of regulation or dysregulation. So for example, kids, when I say kids, 12 years old and up, who are anxious, cycling thoughts, unable to focus, in this OCD kind of panic state, when we put them on the device, they tend to respond very quickly. And what we see, again, is they just sit and they calm down. Some of these kids have described it as being, wow, is this what normal feels like? When my son, I got into Innerstill, During the pandemic, my 15-year-old son at the time had become really dysregulated. He became suicidal, largely because so much of what he loved to do was just cut off to him during a time when his hormones were a hot mess anyway. And I had been involved with another neuromodulation company at the time, and I really wanted to avoid starting him on meds until I tried some of these other interventions. And so the first time he went on the machine, it looked like he had smoked a joint. And actually, we've had several people talk about that where they feel like, whoa, it feels like I'm high, but not in that kind of cloudy space, just where I feel this relaxation that goes through me. So that's one aspect that people feel. Other people have reported improvements in their stomach and their intestines. They find that they become more regular. Other people talk about feeling like their aches and pains are not as intense. So it really depends on kind of where somebody is along their stage of homeostasis.
Yeah, very cool. That's it. That is exciting. So, what is the form factor of the device? How often do you have to use it? Is it disposable? What's and you guys haven't launched yet, right?
Actually,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
we have launched. We've launched through practitioners, and it connects up to a little headset. We're working through a couple of different headsets right now.
I like that.
So it goes through the neck, and then there's little ear pods that sit in the ear, and connected to that are little ear electrodes. Pardon me, ear clips. And so what's essentially happening is that you're stimulating the vagus nerve through a point at the neck in certain frequency ranges, and then ear clips that stimulate acupressure points on the earlobes at other frequencies. And both of these are closed loop signals circuits, so anode and cathode, and they oscillate between a bipolar positive and negative stage. And through these, again, in different frequency levels. And what that does is it helps to prevent that saturation that often happens with other stimulators.
Yeah. Okay. For obviously people are listening. The one portion is inside the ear, inside the ear canal. The other side is clipped to your earlobe, and then the other is on your neck, where your tonsils are on the side, and where I had these neckband headphones before, so I'd wrap them around my neck, and then that would go into my ear. So, how long do you have to wear it? And you say you don't really feel it, so it's like sub-threshold, right? Is it? And so yeah, how does that work?
So it is a 50-minute session that you sit with. And our studies show that a baseline of 5 sessions creates enduring feelings, clinically, statistically significant outcomes and wellness that will last for 2 weeks or longer. And so what we find is that people will put on the device. They may work, they may meditate, they may watch TV. You don't have to engage with the device for it to engage with you. It's very passive, so you put it on. And then what we find is after people do their 5 sessions of baseline, and we typically recommend that happens between 7 to 10 days. That's what we do with our studies. Then people will come back depending on their situation and kind of what they're trying to manage a couple times a week for the next couple of weeks, and then once a week the next month after that, and then as needed just to get a tune-up. What was very important for Yakov, Dr. Katznelson, who is our inventor, was that we create a stimulator that does not create sensation. And the reason why that is important is many stimulators out there create a feeling like you're feeling that electrical sensation. And that actually elicits a cortisol response. You get muscle twitch. You set the parameters to a level that you can manage, which can be very off-putting to some people. The other thing about it is it's impossible to have a sense of which parameters, stimulation parameters and frequencies are ideal for you. A doctor can't guess it. You can't guess it just based on the feel. And the frequency ranges that are programmed into the technology, they oscillate, and they are appropriate, as Dr. Katznelson says, for about 85% of the population that's out there. And it's interesting because our data show that a little over 90% have these significant outcomes with the results. And there is some number of people that we expect that it won't be effective for, but otherwise those parameters are preset, so people don't need to guess at them. It's essentially auto-regulated for the individual. And that's the other thing, the closed loop architecture and the way the waveforms oscillate it essentially adjusts for each person's own impedances. So everybody has different moisture and skin thickness and musculature. This allows for that optimized waveform to come through the skin.
Yeah. Interesting. That's very cool. And then you guys are doing this in a clinic right now, right? So I see on your website you have a dozen locations that people can go to. So every 2 weeks they would go in for 50 minutes and have this done.
That's right. Yep, that's right. Or
Okay.
as needed. We are also doing a limited release. We have some left of 200 of our clinic machines. 2 are very enthusiastic vibers. That's what we call them. It's MindVibe. So to our enthusiastic vibers, they can buy an unlimited use clinic machine. And the purpose for that is to really help us understand consumer behavior and to understand what they like. People will be testing out some of these different headsets. We'll be finding out if they like the app, what features do they want on the app? Do they like some of the diagnostics? Do they prefer not to have it? There's a handful of vibers who prefer just an on-off machine, no app at all, which has its benefits as a company. It keeps us a little bit blind to usage and data, but these are things that we'll explore based on our consumer feedback.
Yeah, very cool. And then you guys are doing the wellness pathway. So why did you decide to do a wellness device versus going after some kind of indication, getting FDA approval?
Yeah, so our technology is it's so safe, it's so mild, and the translational research indicates its safety. And so we felt, given the need that's out there right now to help people chill out, that we would first launch it a wellness route. And that being said, it was very important to us that we had data to support our claims. So we've done these studies that show efficacy around wellness, but we've also done an addiction study where we've shown really cool results as it relates to reducing cravings and improving sleep and reducing agitation. We are in the middle of an ADHD and autism study, and we are also just completed a study around autonomic nervous system balance as measured by heart rate variability for those who've just completed breast cancer treatment. But the wellness route is a route we're going now to get it out there, to get it accessible. We will take a version of MindVibe through an FDA pathway. There are a couple of it's called a 510K lane that we can pursue to get it through. And we'll do that because that will expand adoption.
Yeah, fascinating. So I'm assuming you guys are making some sort of revenue now and you're able to bootstrap this and then be able to fund some of the FDA trials for some of the indications. So you're able to make some sort of revenue right now then, right?
Yeah, we're generating revenue now. It's not enough yet to pursue a 510K pathway, but that's what we're in the middle of a fundraise right now. So we're raising funding to be able to not only take MindVibe through both that commercial, to expand that commercial impact, but also through the 510K pathway. But it will also help to fund the clinical and FDA pathway of our non-invasive deep brain stimulator.
Okay. Yeah. And then before we started recording, you were talking a little bit about that. Do you want to mention that as well?
Sure. Yeah. So we have a prototype for a non-invasive deep brain stimulator, again, ultra low current, that combines 4 different modes. And so we have seen just through very early testing with this prototype that it improves cognitive and functional activities related to people who have Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and in a couple of instances, concussion. And so we are really excited about offering, as our company grows, a full suite of tools that support anyone on the continuum from floundering to flourishing. For example, right now, MindVibe supports anyone who's very anxious or having difficulty with their quality of sleep. to people who also want to up level their cognitive function. So people who want to become a little bit more sharp, who want to become a little bit more intuitive, MindVibe supports that continuum. In that same way, we see our deep brain stimulator as a tool to really help revitalize neurological processes. And again, we're very science-based, evidence-based. Our inventor is one of our grandfathers of bioelectric stimulation. And so we were really excited to get this out as an option, as a first line offense to helping to resolve some of these mental health and neurological issues.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. It sounds almost too good to be true, some of these effects. So how did this come into being? I'm looking, Dr. Yakov Katznelson, he was in the pediatric ward in Russia. So how did he invent this neurostimulator? It seems like a pretty big leap.
So he is an anesthesiologist. He has a PhD in neurophysiology. And when he headed up this pediatric ward, there was a shortage of painkillers. This was back in the 80s, back when it was Leningrad, now St. Petersburg. And Dr. Katznelson has the purest heart you'll ever meet. He is just the kindest, most thoughtful person. He's also very bright. And so during that time in the pediatric ward, he was trying to figure out ways to trick the body into relaxing and to inducing a pain-killing effect, an analgesic effect. And so he started doing vagus nerve research way back in the 80s, did some animal studies with it, then pivoted to transcranial stimulation mid-80s, developed a couple of pain devices that were launched in Russia, and then he was recruited to the States, where he continued to work on stimulation technologies, transcranial stim. And so he continued to develop that. He was the original patent holder and inventor behind the Nexalin technology, which has been launched for depression and anxiety and sleep. And then in 2013, he teamed up with Hank Beckoff, who was a retired psychoanalyst, another person with a huge heart, who retired from psychoanalysis because he got tired of seeing so many of his patients go the pharmacy route and really end up with all of these complications from polypharmacy, from multiple meds. And so when he was introduced to Dr. Katznelson and started to see the effect of Dr. Katznelson's transcranial technologies on his patients, he came out of retirement and started to work very closely with Dr. Katznelson in developing this next generation of tools.
Yeah, wow. Fascinating. And then how did you get into it? And that still seems like it's not yet a full product and it needs to get over the finish line and into clinics as you guys have.
Yep. I got involved in 2021. I'd invested and been involved with another neurostimulation company, another really cool tech, tongue stimulator for gait and balance disorder. So I knew about the landscape of neuromodulation. And so when my son got very dysregulated, I was trying every single thing I could get my hands on to help get him stabilized, normalized. And it was out of desperation that I ended up speaking to a doctor that I serve on a board of a hospital system with, who's also an integrative doctor, and asked her for an integrative psychiatrist. And she said, I don't know of any, but there's a guy that I send all my patients to. He's got these machines, and I think they could really help David. And so that was January of 2021. And that's when I took my son to see him, and my son had an immediate effect that within the space of 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, I would say, he was like back to his normal self. And that was from January until May of 2021, where I dove in and did diligence on their tech, had a freedom to operate, completed on the IP, and decided to jump in, and I led our friends and family around, and it's taken us a little bit of time to go from prototype to a scalable product, but we're there, at least on MindVibe. We have more to do on the consumer unit, but we're at a stage now where it makes sense to really move forward and scale.
That's incredible. So your son, you're saying after 3 or 4 sessions, he saw the effects. Is that typical? Does it take a little bit?
Yeah, for him, it was probably Hank lives a little bit far from me, so we would go a couple times a week. So I'd have to say it was probably more like 12 to 16 sessions over the course of 6 to 8 weeks. But each time I took him, his anxiety attacks, the distance between each anxiety attack became longer or further and further apart. And really, after his first 2 sessions, he was back at the piano. He was a musician, and one of his outlets was writing music and singing and playing piano. And he was very athletic as well, but all of that was gone. And so when we started hearing him play piano again and sing and laugh, it was remarkable. And this was after we had tried these other stimulators that either took too long to work, he'd have to use it twice a day for 30 days, or they created sensation, which just set him off in the opposite direction. And so this was such a godsend to us. And since then, we've seen so many other transformative effects to help people come out of that stress state.
Yeah, that's incredible. And did you guys try pharmaceuticals? And then there's a lot of also other vagus nerve stimulators on the market. And so what makes this one better? Why did this one have effects and the other ones didn't?
Yeah, so a couple things. We did try other vagus nerve stimulators. There are none that we tried that were multimode. And so the ones that we were able to try either created sensation. You had to set the parameters, and you did it by the way it felt. Or in one case, he had like muscle twitch, which just no go. When you're anxious, that just doesn't work. They do have degrees of efficacy. So they do work for people to a point. So one of the other things that happens with certain devices is you can hyperpolarize or saturate, where they'll work for a while, but at some stage your body adjusts to it. You saturate. There's only so many ions that you can have, and they either stop working, or in some cases you can revert. And so then people, they stop using them. We didn't get to that stage with David because of either the sensation, or it just took too long. The ones that were very mild, he just couldn't stick with it. Those also work. What was beautiful about MindVibe was that, and as Dr. Katz-Nelson explains it, and I now understand the science, the multi-mode stimulation is powerful, but it's also very gentle. So it worked quickly on him, and it didn't cause any of that electrical sensation that really bothered him.
Okay. So it's maybe cycling through the programs, and it gives time to rest for the body, and then also at the same time is able to find the parameter that might work. That's incredible. Do you guys have intellectual property filed on this, or?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a couple of modes patented with MindVibe, and so that's fully covered. And then we have our non-invasive deep brain stimulator. We have 3 of those parameters and the use case patented. We have 1 that's pending.
Yeah. Exciting. Yeah, that's really cool. So this new consumer device, that's the thing, that's what you guys are working towards and doing and raising money for those clinical trials. Is there anything else that's coming up, or I guess what's next?
Yeah, I think that most companies, when they're launching a technology, they'll focus on one technology, they'll start to commercialize, they'll make money, they'll then do a raise, they'll continue that scaling, then they'll work on their pipeline technology. Because of the age of our founders, we felt it was really important to get it done, have it built, have that documentation, and then so we did it a little bit differently. So what's really next is scaling MindVibe from a commercial sense, both to our not only practitioners, but employers and school settings. Employers right now are looking for wellness solutions that really help people de-stress. This is something that they can have in their gyms or in their lounges that people can get onto very easily. If they want to have some of them take them home, they'll be able to do that. Universities are always looking for safe ways to help their students. So we'll focus scaling MindVibe, and then also taking MindVibe through a clinical pathway, while Hank and Yakov and our regulatory team will focus on getting those studies done for our deep brain stimulator.
Yeah. Yeah, because they were previously retired, right? You guys pulled them out of retirement to do this.
They pulled themselves out of retirement because They believe, and they are right, that there needs to be another solution to help deal with some of these neurological conditions that are based on neurometabolic dysfunction, right? So we have pharmaceutical options that are great for helping in an acute sense, talking about kind of mental health issues. We also know that the chronic use of some of these psych meds can lead to disorders that mimic neurodegeneration. And in some cases, these are not reversible. So involuntary movement, brain fog, memory loss. And so Hank and Yakov were very dedicated to figuring out another solution to help normalize not only mental health, but restore that neurological health. And so they pulled themselves out, but they are not getting any younger.
Yeah, exactly. That's exciting stuff. Yeah, this is really cool. I hope this works. I think it'd be fun to try it out and see what it's like and have that rush of focus and altered state of consciousness and maybe feel a little bit calmer.
Well,
Hopefully others will as well.
yeah, one of the things is that vagus nerve stimulation has been shown to stimulate the pineal gland. And so we have a fair number of vibers. Again, once they reach a baseline, they've come out of their stress state. They're able to manage that calm aspect of their being. Many have talked about how it's heightened their consciousness, their intuitiveness, their ability to sense things that they were not able to do so before.
Interesting. Yeah, mind expanding, third eye expanding. The pineal gland is often called the real third eye. But Ellen, this has been great. Is there anything that you didn't talk about that you wanted to mention?
No, all I would say is that for any of the listeners out there who would like to experience MindVibe, we have a number of community events that we do. If you're in a situation where you're looking for a solution that may help, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, excellent. And like I said, there's about a dozen clinics around the country, around the US. There's decent chance that you might be near one of them. And yeah, that could be good. And maybe this consumer device comes out too. They don't have to go to the clinic.
Yeah,
But
there's more to come in terms of clinic use. But eventually, yeah, we want these in everybody's home. One of our docs has talked about our technologies being a little bit like the Peloton for the brain, where we've learned that exercise is very important to maintain physical health. We will soon learn, or we are learning now, that being able to engage that rest, digest, and recover function of the brain is critical for our neurological health. And so our technologies provide a tool that will have diagnostics that surround it, health coaches around it, spiritual guidance that people can tap into depending on what it is that they're trying to up level. So
yeah,
these will definitely come to the home.
excellent. Ellen, thank you so much for coming on for Innerstill and MindVibe.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the time. Thank you for providing the ability for me to share.
Hope you enjoyed the show and were able to learn something new, bringing together different fields in novel ways. Until next time on the Neural Implant Podcast.